Good morning, good afternoon to all of our attendees, and thank you for joining us today. Hopefully, you have a good session with us. I have a very special guest with me today, but give me just a second before I introduce this wonderful young man. So, we are here to discuss NOC, SOC, or maybe both. I'm not sure if you are able to see my presentation and slides at the moment, but yeah, okay,
Yeah, there
wonderful.
we go.
So we are here to discuss NOC and SOC, or maybe both. Lots of people talk about those things around the globe now, and I'm pretty much sure that you guys are well familiar with this, but we'd like to put some questions and challenges during this session. My name is Andrew. I work as MDR director with UnderDefense. We started a company with one single principle that is being mostly forgotten between large companies around the globe. Security is personal, and we tend to make sure that it's not one size fits all. So UnderDefense helps companies with stopping ransomware, helping to protect their clouds. We help to protect from insider, for example, breaches. And all of this is done by combining AI technology and people. And that's what our customers love us for. And you can see all of these badges and recognitions that we received, even the latest one, the hot MDR service during RSA conference. There was something that we are very proud of. But let me stop here and present, as I mentioned, a wonderful guest today, my good friend Art. He's a VP of cybersecurity and incident response at ARM. And he's a very well-known specialist when we speak about NOC operations, again, SOC operations, and incident response. Art, please present yourself.
Yes, yeah. Hey, I'm Ardo Kane, VP of Cybersecurity and Incident Response with Arium. Arium is a combination of five MSPs and MSSPs that came together to provide better IT services, better cybersecurity services, and focus on incident response. And really, almost everything we've built out of our practices has been from the learnings of incident response. The things we've picked up and gleaned from those incidents. And we've done over 75,000 hours of incident response time, both the initial incident and recovery for incidents. And we've done over 100 incidents so far. So it's been a pretty consistent stream as everybody's seeing ransomware and everything. And the majority of them are ransomware, although there's other stuff, bank fraud and phishing and email account compromises and things like that. But we are focused on IT and cybersecurity with a real influence from that incident response. Thanks, Andrew.
Oh, amazing. Thank you so much. And we can use your expertise today as much as possible. Well, for our agenda, I was planning to kind of distinguish between NOC and SOC. Try to discuss are these actually something equal, or maybe do we need to put exclamation points after each of those, or maybe after just one of them?
Mhm.
I would want to focus on why mixing NOC and SOC roles might be potentially a failure. And then are we speaking about a good SOC? Are we speaking about a good NOC? What are those, definitions of teams in NOC or SOC working good or maybe working bad? Well, in general, it would be good if, again, asking our audience to comment, to give your ideas. Just maybe ask yourself, did any cybersecurity challenges led you to attend today's webinar? Or maybe you had challenges, experiences, uh, differences between NOC and SOC responsibilities within your
Mhm.
organization. In any case, drop us in comments, give us your questions. We'll be happy to cover them live as much as possible. If not, we can always have a Q&A session maybe a little bit closer till the end of the presentation. So I would, to kick off this, I would say that many organizations, they do have lots of tools. They mostly have people. To some degree, those teams maybe are not fully completed. Yeah, there is always a hiring process within most organizations that I know, but it's mostly not a problem of detecting threats, but how do you actually respond to those threats? And that's when companies actually start facing challenges because there is always a gap on detection and response, or maybe not response, or maybe even not detection. So let's start from the very beginning. Let's do a little definitions of NOC and SOC. And Arif, I know you have a robust experience
Mhm.
with NOC.
Yep.
Could you please give us an idea of what actually NOC is for you and how it actually worked out for you?
Yeah, so NOC is your network operations center. It's your traditional IT operations, and it's usually the network side of it. It's usually not the system administration, although that can be involved. It's usually the switches and routers and firewalls. And as a result, those people get pulled into network security, because they're having to handle that network layer. But they're usually focused on network and server uptime monitoring, performance and health checks, troubleshooting, resolving issues, patching, backing up and monitoring, and handling escalations and infrastructure issues, configuration stuff, configuring the network devices, troubleshooting, performance, and it really their focus on is on performance and availability. So a knock is really focused on the network working well and working as quickly as possible with as few complaints as possible.
No, absolutely. I'm here with you, and I would say that NOC is more on the IT side. So you
Mhm.
want to make sure that you have a basic skeleton of your organization, and then you need to build the muscles around this skeleton. And that's where SOC must kick in at this point. So SOC is
Mhm.
about detecting threats. It's about responding to those threats and containing those threats. I just pulled up the roles for NOC and SOC. They're like, maybe too general, but the primary responsibility for SOC would be to monitor for threats, to figure out how to actually respond and investigate what happened to those breaches. Now, with regards to responsibilities, I will be covering something on mixing those responsibilities later. So let's keep this cherry on the pie till the middle of our conversation. Now, I would be good. It would be good for our audience to hear about tools that NOC and SOC
Mhm.
uses. So from
Yeah.
SOC perspective, it's more on a SIEM and EDR tool basis. It's a security tool set on your identity and access management. It might be something like threat intelligence. So we want as SOC to have the holistic view into security processes that happen within the organization and sometimes even outside, because you want to figure out those external vulnerabilities that happen within your organization. So SIEM helps us to bring all the telemetry together to have a clear picture of what's going on. EDR helps us, for example, to contain threats and get the telemetry out of endpoints. Network detection tools gives us information from networks, and cloud detection tools or cloud security gives us insight from the clouds. It seems obvious, but how do we actually have NOC being integrated into this part, Art? What do you think? Like, what tools do you guys use? Are there any tools that kind of interchange, and how can we actually coexist
Right.
together?
Yeah, so from a network layer, we're doing a lot of monitoring with like Nagios, SolarWinds. We may use Auvik if you're an MSP or an MSSP to gather network telemetry, and a lot of times the log feeds are actually the same feed. It's just the kind of data that they're looking at in the feed. So when you're pulling the feed of all of the data, the log data from the firewall, the SOC is looking for security events. The NOC is looking for, interface traffic, things like that. So it's really the same data set. It's just how they're looking at it. But the tools are based around availability. Is this device up or down? How fast is this device responding? Is there high latency on the network? Things like that. So the tools are really built around monitoring for availability rather than monitoring for security. Now there are some overlaps. Some of the tools are building sensors to like talk to EDR and alert on that. But I wouldn't say it's as rich as a SIM or the output from a SOAR. It is really just pulling in and alerting on another tool. So it's saying EDR is signaling that there is an alert on something, and then that may be reflected in the monitoring tool in SolarWinds. But it's not really doing analysis of that security event within that tool.
So, from your experience, did you see companies being effective using, for example, SIEM tool for both NOC and SOC?
You can. I feel like a SIM is there's a lot you have to do to make SIM usable for both. So the data is the same, so it can be. I've seen people use Elastic, for instance, pull all of their security events and their network events into Elastic, and then just build out dashboards for network monitoring, for security monitoring. So it is possible to do it all in one tool, but it does take a certain amount of customization because most of these tools are made for more security events or more network events. So but when people are building kind of their own tool set and building their own stack, and they're doing something like with Elastic and building that out, it's definitely possible to do that. It's just you're customizing it for your network, for your security situation, and it does allow you to use all that data together. Then you can then look at a security event and say, oh, I see that there's this other network traffic that's associated with it, which may not have been obvious if it was just a security tool. So pulling all that together does have an advantage, but it does make it more complicated. It does mean that your team has to have expertise in understanding the network side of it as well as the security side of it.
No, absolutely. And I'm here about the ownership as well. I mean,
Mhm.
when you do know that NOC or SOC team or any other department is owning a tool or a solution, that means they actually take care of this. So patching, applying all the updates needed, fine-tuning the tool. But when it's a tool that is used by various teams, sometimes it's a challenge. Sometimes it puts you in jeopardy. Now, from my experience, we've seen, for example, Splunk SIEM being used as NOC tool as well. So it has a good ITSM module, for example, and gives you a lot of insights into what's going on within your NOC. Plus, it gives various insights and telemetry to SOC teams. So it might be something when you are capable of intersecting those tools.
Yes.
On the contrary, modern XDR tools, they also give you some insights into additional uh, telemetry, additional insights. But as for me, again, maybe I'm being too, I don't know, too old in this judging, but it's always better to have a specialized tool that gives you some precise insights. And I think that Leonardo is completely with us on this side, saying that complex solutions are usually more expensive, and they just
Yep.
sometimes they do not provide the level of insights, level of telemetry, level of data that you would want to go with.
Mhm. Yeah.
All right. Again, you started with NOC. Now you're more into incident response. So you kind of jumped over the SOC role
Yes.
into incident response. It would be good for me personally and for our audience to understand what type of skill set did you have to develop? What was crucial for you during the NOC
Yep.
stage or NOC period and during the SOC period? If you could share this light on us.
Yeah. So to me, that's a key part of the problem question here. Is when you're giving all of your SOC responsibilities to NOC or vice versa, or you're combining those teams. Let's say you're trying to reduce costs and you're a CIO or VP of IT, and you're trying to combine your SOC and your NOC team because you realize a lot of the data sets are the same. You realize that there is a skill difference. There's a real broad difference in what people are doing. So the NOC is usually very hardware and software focused, understanding how, for instance, a Cisco firewall works or a Palo Alto firewall works. They're focused on, the fiber connectivity between devices and the speed, and they're focused on measuring latency, and they're focused on, the traffic going through and the kinds of devices, and there's usually projects that NOC has to do. They have new gear that they're rolling out. They have iOS upgrades. They have to upgrade all the devices, things like that. So they usually have a kind of full plate of things to do, but it's usually based around IT operations. And when you start to ask them, okay, for the first ask, always the bleed is, okay, take care of these vulnerabilities. We've identified these vulnerabilities on the network, patch these, close these ports, change these services, change these passwords, etc. Take care of these holes. And so they work on that, and that's where they get that crossover into security. But then they say, okay, we're going to give you some more SOC responsibilities since you're already on the network here. Start looking at intrusion detection and network detection and response, and let us know if there's any attacks going on the network. Now that's really kind of where the shutdown happens. The NOC guys actually have no idea how to identify an attack going on the network. Denial of service attack is usually kind of loud. So from a network side, you can see a DDoS going on. We can see what's going on. NOC guys are usually good at responding to a DDoS, blocking IPs, shutting down services, changing routes, etc. When you're asking them to do threat hunting and identify anomalous traffic that doesn't belong on the network and figure out whether it's a threat, that's something NOC guys don't know how to do. And they need to skill up, re-educate, learn how to be a SOC engineer in order to detect threats. And if they're using the same software stack, they're probably not in a good shape to do that. If they have implemented a SIEM and things like that, an IDS system, and they're pulling all of that security telemetry in, then you have this NOC engineer who's trying to focus on two dashboards and two sets of things. So that's where it gets difficult as well. So, it is possible if you have really talented people that have been cross-trained in both to run this, but in most cases, there's just a skill difference. It's not that one's harder than the other. It's just they're different kinds of work. And if you're focused on getting your projects done on the NOC side and these new deployments and things like that, you're ignoring possible threats that are coming in. Like your head's down, you're focused on configuring these 42 firewalls to be deployed to all your locations. You're not focused on, the threat that's happening right now. So, you need someone who's able to focus on that as well. So that's where it becomes definitely trickier. And a lot of people are saying, okay, well, we don't really need that person. We just need a system and automation. And that may be true to some extent. You can replace a lot of kind of that detection with some automation, but ideally there is a person still to look at that output and make a decision. And that response gets dropped. You have automated systems that can be detecting things all day long, but if there's nobody in your team focused on that, there's nobody to help make a decision when a decision needs to be made.
Absolutely. I've noticed that in a lot of cases when SOC need to escalate something to NOC, they kind of raise a ticket and sometimes it just got stuck. So I wonder why that happens. I mean, you go back to the CISO, to CIO, to IT director asking question like, what happened? Why is this ticket not being processed? It happens that they're just overload. It's happened because it's either lack of resources or maybe they're just doing not what they were intended to do. And we have a question actually by, are there any tips on how to make a NOC and SOC work without a massive budget? And I think this will be covered by our presentation just a little bit later. But in case we don't, it will be good if we can go back to this question at the end of the presentation. So the big mistake that I'm seeing at the moment, and that's what my team is actually escalating to me all the time, is that there is the alert fatigue. And when you have an alert fatigue, you need to distinguish between those that are being NOC originated and the one that being SOC originated. And now there is another problem. When there is a large amount of alerts, when there is a large amount of incidents that arise from these alerts, there is no one that hunts for these threats. So they are just staying there beneath the surface. There might be some malicious actors living in your environment for n number of days. And then you just face that the internal team is overwhelmed with all these questions, ideas, tickets that they need to follow up. What we were discussing during the skill set is that there is not a single pane of glass when you speak about detecting and responding to threats. It's that SOC should be doing their job and being something like a precise shooter that can figure out what needs to be done and hit the target, hit the bullseye precisely. And there is a NOC that supports this initiative. I mean, it would be good, Art, if you could, share with us what was your biggest challenge as a NOC engineer? Like, I mean, is it patching that bugged you too much? Is it the overwhelming number of alerts? Is it the lack of resources? I do understand that it was like kind of a long time ago that you worked as a NOC engineer, but if we combine those, and I do not think that those challenges faded. I'm more than positive that they just escalated during the course of time.
Yeah, it's very similar kind of work. So there is alerts that come in. There are alerts, there are tickets from users. They come in, and all these need to be addressed. And there's SLAs around addressing those tickets and these alerts. So that alert fatigue that we talk about all the time on the SOC, that actually happens anywhere in IT. NOC people are having to deal with that as well. And, there may be a goal that the team has, like the dashboard needs to be clear of all red alerts by the end of the day, that kind of thing. When you come in tomorrow morning, they're going to be red again. There's going to be some alert that's going to have happened, and it's usually a machine is overloaded, hard drive's full, a failure on one of the devices on the network, something like that, and you feel like you're firefighting a lot, having to deal with that. You can shift left and get ahead of that with automation, and which would take some investment from the team. But in general, your NOC is usually kind of busy, focused on that kind of stuff and keeping everybody happy. They usually don't have a lot of time to just sit around, eat pizza, and watch Netflix. They're usually pretty pretty busy with projects, as well as with monitoring tasks. So when I think about just how busy a NOC engineer tends to be, with whether it's new network initiatives, whether it's new things coming down from the CTO or the CIO, or whether it's upgrades of existing equipment and just maintenance tasks. And it is, they have a full slate usually. So, like as the slide refers to, no one hunts. When we started to take on security responsibilities, there was no threat hunting. There was no, real analysis, unless alerts were slapping us in the face, saying, you have
Yeah.
active ransomware on these 5 machines. Unless there's that kind of problem happening, the rest of the little stuff goes unseen. Like lateral movement, that could be us. Like, how do we know? Like, nobody's really focusing on that. So that's really where the problem was, I think, with NOC. And there are possibilities in integrating the two, but you definitely need to make sure that people are cross trained and that there's enough people to be able to spread that work, and that systems are designed to automate and shift left as much of the work as you can. There's a lot to think about without just slapping teams together. And I think one of the problems right now is, in the tech industry, we've been trying to reduce costs, and everybody's been trying to do layoffs and do more with less. And so when you're thinking about smashing these teams together and doing a reduction in force, there are a lot of responsibilities here that need to be distributed. And just expecting your NOC engineers to pick up the SOC, is a recipe for failure.
100% here with you. And I have a question to our audience, by the way. Like, what consequences did you or have you noticed from the alert fatigue or maybe from tool overload within your teams? Because the other thing that I was about to cover during this session today is that load and effectiveness, they kind of go in parallel. I'll proudly mention that no one's actually watching Netflix eating pizza because you guys, NOC engineers, SOC engineers, are usually heavily overloaded. And why does that happen? Well, absolutely answering the question that one of our audience had today was that cost optimization is something that you want to do. Most of the companies are doing their best to reduce headcount, layovers that I just mentioned, or bringing up new tools, less tools, additional tools. Sometimes it's a matter of cutting your license cost, for example, because we do not have enough budget. And this all comes from cost optimization. Sometimes you just need to justify to your C-level, to the company owners, that it's not the cost center. It's actually the investment that you do in order to keep business running, in order to make sure that your company stays safe. This is one of the most important things here, because in a lot of companies and a lot of people that I talk to, CISO and CIOs, they just assume that cybersecurity, including NOC in this case, is the cost spending center. It's not something that makes money. We also touched base on talent shortage. It's widely spread, and though we have a lot of cybersecurity courses all around the globe, and universities are just pushing a lot of new courses. We have people switching from other departments, other jobs, other responsibilities into NOC and SOC functions. It's still a problem at the moment because sometimes it feels that we are just not following the train at the moment.
Mhm.
And the other thing is that the talent shortage brings to another big problem that we will need to discuss. It's probably just on a couple of next slides. I wouldn't go into detail, but that's when you kind of intersect responsibilities. That's when you try to
Mhm.
put more and more pressure on your NOC or SOC to do things they were not actually designed or
Mhm.
they were not actually asked to do at the very beginning. And that's where the skill set comes in that we discussed a little bit earlier. That's where the tool set comes in that we discussed a little bit earlier. That means that they just do not have enough resources, physical, mental resources to keep up with the duties. I'm more than positive that there is a general misconception on the alerts and protection.
Mhm.
That's what Art mentioned. You have the whole screen being red, but it doesn't actually mean that you are being protected. It
Mhm.
just means that you have a lot of tools bringing you a lot of new telemetry, and it just pops up in front of your NOC or SOC analyst. Art, do you have anything to add to this? Maybe something on tool consolidation or maybe anything on
Yeah.
talent shortage?
So, I mean, I feel like I beat up on the cons of kind of smashing these teams together, but you know, if this stuff is consolidated well, if tools, if a company invests in the right automation and in the right tools, and does train up the teams well, you know, there will be increased communication between your security people and your network people within that, you know, um, SecOps team, as well as some cost efficiency, as well as centralized monitoring, as well as better coordination and things like that. Um, so I feel like as I beat everything up, I don't want to say that it's not possible. It is. It just definitely takes some coordination and some thought because there's tool set complexity. There are different kinds of tools. There's risk of alert fatigue. There's conflicting priorities. Your NOC is focused on uptime and your SOC is focused on containment. Like uptime and containment do not always work together. So uh, you know the ideal is that those teams come together in a way that makes your organization more resilient so that you start thinking about how do we get ahead of these threats. But the risk is that as we're thinking because of talent shortages, because of cost optimization, because of the tool issue, because of alert fatigue, we're actually going to be behind by combining these. Like you know, yes, it can be done well if you're investing right in it, and if you put the right people in the team, and if you're training them up right. But most companies aren't going to do that. Most companies are just looking to save some money and are going to actually hamstring themselves in doing this. So
Yeah, I'm
that's my
like
thought.
smoothly transition to kind of summarizing what does NOC and SOC do well, so that
Hmm.
we can speak about mixing the roles, and then we can speak about the consequence of mixing the roles. So I would probably leave your part to highlight what NOCs do well. From my experience, SOC is designed to detect threats,
Hmm.
cybersecurity threats. Uh, Ideally, it should be done in real time. We do
Yes.
understand that sometimes it's in most cases impossible, but you might want to do this in the most precise time manner possible. You want to correlate those alerts between different tools. So SOC is designed to have insights into various sectors of your infrastructure, whatever that is, clouds, endpoints, identities, networks, whatever, where you work, where you have your information data, that's where your SOC wants to have insights into.
Hmm.
Now, then SOC needs to act fast. So to act fast, they need to have tools, they need to have people trained, they need to have processes in place. It's a combination of three factors that bring you especially good, good, fine, refined incident response practices that you have in house. Um, Nothing is important than proactive protection. I mean, it's always good to have reactive one. It's good to have correlation rules, to have detection rules, to make sure that you have telemetry from various sources and threat intel within your organization. But you do not want to focus on monitoring only. And
Hmm.
Art, prove me if I'm wrong. For a knock, it's absolutely the same because you
Yes.
still need to predict what happens to your knock infrastructure in days, weeks, or even month. So for SOC, you
Absolutely.
just want to make sure that you have all this proactive protection, doing threat hunting sessions, doing vulnerability discoveries, doing red teaming within your organization. We'll speak about it a little bit later, but the idea behind this is to make sure that you have your SOC operations focused on security. Now, bring it back to knock, Art.
Hmm. Yeah, yeah. So, I mean, very similar to what we've already discussed. Like the NOC is focused on operational uptime and efficiency. So, everything that they do well is maintenance based and upgrades and patching and configuration changes to enable the business to succeed, enable business services. So, new applications are being deployed. The NOC needs to make some adjustments in order to allow those applications to communicate, things like that. And so that's kind of the world that they live in. So, kind of like you said, the SOC, is kind of, it's not good if they're just alerting. The NOC is the same way. The NOC needs to be proactive. Needs to chase down issues and fix actual network problems before they can become a continual issue and cost customers or productivity problems. So they need to get ahead of it and be proactive. And if they're just an alerting reactive thing, it never makes them look good. So if you're just getting alerts about network failures and then you're going and trying to fix them, you probably won't last long, or your IT in your organization is going to have a bad reputation of just, oh, we're always down, we're always having issues because your knock is in a reactive mode.
Absolutely. Well, so the question to the audience now would be, how do you guys validate your detection capabilities at this moment? How often do you update rules or playbooks? Just think about it. It's an important question before we move to the next slide. All right, let's pretend I'm a new, I don't know, CISO within the organization. I just joined and I want to optimize everything. That's what the board expects me of.
Yep.
I'm just seeing that there is NOC guys doing something, there is SOC guys doing something.
Yep.
Wow, why don't I just make sure that we cut half of these expenses? I mean, we have NOC guys doing their job. Why don't they do same with SOC?
Yep.
Um, let's just pretend it happens. In what cases do you think merging duties will actually work? I mean,
Yeah.
it's not the time that we cannot say that knock and sock cannot coexist.
Yeah. I think it works well when the teams are able to communicate well. So you have some experts and some people that are able to handle the load on the SOC team, and you have some people that are able to handle the load on the NOC, and you really just functionally combine the team, so that they're working together, so that they're always collaborating, so that they're always, the security experts and the network experts are able to produce a better product basically out of their outcomes, and say, okay, now I have a more secure network, and that'll make your organization more resilient going forward. So the idea there is you're not really reducing a lot of force. Maybe some of the lower level analysts or something, but it's uh, you're keeping your expertise. You're not losing your skill set by combining in this way. If you decide to just have the knock pick up those and you chop off a lot of your security experts, let's say, hey, our security guys are just too expensive. We have to cut 10 of them in order to get below the budget goal. Then you end up with a lot of guys that have no idea about really how to threat hunting and security and how to MITRE attack works and things like that. Like they don't really understand what they're looking at trying to pick up security. So in my mind, it's possible to combine these teams functionally into one team, but you can't lose those skill sets in the way. And if you do have to make a big chop, let's say you have to drop millions of dollars of payroll and you have to drop those significant employees from one of your teams, that means you're probably going to have to pick up some more expense in outsourcing. You're going to have to bring in somebody else with some expertise to help shore up those teams. But yeah,
Yeah,
it's going to be a failure when those NOC engineers are going to be responsible for that detection. Like I said, from my experience, unless Sentinel-1 or CrowdStrike or whatever your EDR is slapping you in the face, saying you are under attack, you're not really looking at it from a SOC point of view. Nobody's digging through and looking for artifacts that may be a sign of an incident going on. Nobody's threat hunting. Nobody's really doing any kind of forensic analysis on anything that does happen. We're really just trying to move forward as fast as possible when NOC is leading that detection effort.
yeah, absolutely. A company can survive. No one says that it will fall on the security incident or breach in the next day, week, or month after doing such a decision. But absolutely, that lowers the shield. It keeps the thresholds very low, and malicious actors can get within the organization easier, faster, or even unnoticed. From our experience, we've noticed that merging SOC and NOC duties actually fails when you have untuned tools. When we also mentioned that those tools are not being owned by the particular team, that it's orphaned ones, and no one's just taking care of those. It's very important to make sure that there is something like detection validation. That's what I asked our audience at the beginning. It's not a matter of having a number of correlation rules or having those correlation rules mapped on MITRE if you do not test these detections, actual detections. So red teaming, penetration testings, whatever other offensive exercise that you can do to actually kind of um, challenge your SOC, NOC, or whatever we call this combined entity at the moment is something that you want to do. Now, Art probably mentioned that NOC should not probably lead the detection efforts. It should respond, it should push, it should help to sustain the organization posture. But SOC is the one responsible. And if we are capable having people actually trained within two domains, if we are having tools that are being integrated between those teams, if we can have for the playbooks that actually not only exist but are trained, and we can test those playbooks within the organization, I think it can actually work. There is a chance that you might cut expenses, you might save on your both teams, and have only one team. But again, it puts a lot of pressure. And then the point of failure is so high that, for example, when that one person quits, you lose NOC and SOC function at the same time. And that's a challenge you might want to think about. Wouldn't want to put the company or the whole organizations in jeopardy just because someone on a sick leave. So when you have this interchange SOC and NOC functions, that something helps. Art, from your experience, if we were about to merge those duties, are there any type of companies, maybe specific industries, or any other distinguishing components that you might name to say when it's, we can recommend or like kind of advise doing this, or on the other hand, in some cases, it's quietly prohibited and no one is about to follow this path?
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it several times done, and I think if I was going to kind of lay out a roadmap of kind of how to be more successful with it, I'd say implement MDR and bring in that company to kind of shore up your security operations. So let's say you're going to keep a couple security leaders in your team as you're combining these teams, but you're going to let go a lot of those analysts. If that's the strategy that you choose, then you definitely need an MDR, to handle that analysis and a lot of that before it gets to your higher level engineers. So that's there are a lot of different strategies to go about this, and it's something that I've worked with companies a lot, kind of being a VCSO or a VCIO for those organizations and helping them make those restructure things and help make those decisions. So there are several companies like mine that do that, but I know that UnderDefense as well is able to work with an organization and say, okay, what are the tools you have? What is the team you have? How can we help you structure and tune these things right? And that's something that I know UnderDefense has a lot of expertise with. So I think if you are an organization that's in this place and you're saying, okay, I have to cut budget, I have these tools, I have these people on my team with these expertises, and we need to accomplish these network and security objectives. We may need to get rid of some guys on the network team, so we may need to outsource some of the network support. We may need to outsource some of the security support. But we don't want to lose institutional knowledge, and we don't want to lose those key people on the team that have that skill set and that understanding of your organization as well. So it's important to bring all these things into mind when you're kind of strategizing the right way to optimize your costs. And am I supporting layoffs of people? No. Like, in the end, I would love if everybody had a job. Like, I don't want you to cut your
Right.
team. Like, it's just reality that I'm seeing in the workforce in the last couple of years is IT teams are constantly being asked by the board of directors to cut another 10 people. And so when it comes to your team, instead of just instead of just picking people based on numbers, it's actually a strategy. You have to think about how to get the most out of this team and the tools, and you can't just go and cut heads thinking it's going to work, because like really this presentation is showing you that it probably won't if you just cut without thought. Yep.
Right. From my experience, it seems like you can try to merge those duties in small to medium companies, but when it comes to large companies or even enterprise, so that's not something you want to do. And indeed, having the in-house team plus MDR or outsourced team is something that is very valuable, because having this hybrid approach helps actually to reveal the potential of both teams and help to excel, help to have these detections. Now, the real case scenario, so Capital One Bank, the huge corporation within the United States, unfortunately, they were breached. And it seems like NOC just wasn't enough in their case. I'm not saying that we should blame someone. It's just the perspective of what happened. And we've seen that there was logs and alerts generated. We've seen that no one actually owned those alerts. It seems like we didn't touch this before, but it seems like everyone was just pointing fingers to each other. It's not my responsibility. Someone is doing this. There is an activity within this particular segment. Well, okay, someone else will take care of this. Again, it's not a failure of tools. It's a processes, people, and tools combining together that you want to have. Just again highlighting this because it's very important to understand this principle of incident response. Just one single domain is not, it doesn't fill all your needs. So for the Capital One case, it seems like they had everything needed, but the result was that more than 100 million records were actually exfiltrated. A number of fines, a number of just lost in reputation is something that actually triggered the afterwards of this security incident. So in my view, it's an idea of having incident response, SOC, MDR, and NOC teams compositions working together to bring some insightful results. We've picked up, Art and myself, we've been thinking about some industry signals, something that might help you in 2025 during the course of this year, maybe to focus on what's most important during this time. We were thinking that having adopted and unified tool set is something that can help. We are positive that having security network operations centers or a combination of SOC and NOC working together as a single or a separate divisions. It's not the case. The case is to make sure that you have those duties and responsibilities being fulfilled. And if it's one single guy within your organization and you're happy with these guys, if you're happy with taking the risk that this bus factor might be
Mhm.
occurring with you, it's okay. If not, you can always pay attention to some other alternatives. We've seen a growing use of co-managed models, and that's something that we lightly touched at the previous slide to make sure that you reveal MDR and NOC not only as an internal part but also as an integral part as an outsourcing solution. We've been seeing that small organizations tend to combine those roles more because they need to survive. They don't have those huge budgets like Capital One, for example, had. I'm always thinking about Uber case when there was 200 million in their cybersecurity budget, but they still got breached. So it's not a question of numbers. It's not a question of the budget. It's a question of you being prepared and what steps you actually take towards your security. All right. SOC also fails.
Yes.
I would be happy if you could give us a couple of examples. When do SOC fail and what we can do to prevent those failures?
Yeah. So one, I've been through a lot of these situations where the company may have been like a Capital One. I was pulled into a lot of Fortune 500 or very large enterprise incidents where the company has the right technology. They have the name brand everything, the name brand EDR, IDS, like, WAFs, all the firewalls. They have all the things, but it's their teams are so siloed that and powerless in their silo, so they're not able to help with the response. And so a lot of times a SOC who is actually powerless to respond is almost just a waste of people. So I've been in many cases where the SOC is saying you're under attack. We see this going on against these machines. These are the alerts. And you see that the alerts from the SOC are just getting progressively worse. They're the attack is escalating. The SOC is signaling to the rest of the company like you're on fire. Please, please, start containing these machines, things like that. But the SOC is actually powerless to make those changes. Just lack of collaboration, lack of integration, lack of playbooks, lack of, nobody's actually run through an IR exercise to realize that the SOC actually can't do anything when there is an incident. They have the monitoring telemetry, but that they don't have access to the systems they need to access in order to actually respond. So in that case, the SOC is just becomes a alerting function. And I call it a lot of times, instead of managed detection and response, they're just alerting as a service. So it's all they can do is scream that they're on fire and there's nothing they can do. To me, that's a failure, and people get mad at the SOC when that happens. People are like, well, you know, why did this happen? We have the SOC, we have all these security tools and all this stuff. Well, it's really that, the SOC just wasn't empowered or trained to deal with this, and so that can be a problem. A lot of times the alerts are coming in, and then SOC also doesn't know what to do with them. So there are alerts coming in, and they can't triage them effectively. They don't have correlation rules written to take care of it automatically. There's nothing to help these SOC analysts be successful in a SOC. So they're just sitting there drowning. Sometimes there are response playbooks, but no integrations for the actual tools. So, hey, we have this attack going. It kicks off this playbook. This playbook has a hook that should have gone to the firewall to block this port or something, but that was never set up. Um, so, the playbook runs, check mark, yay, but there was actually nothing happening to stop the attack.
Absolutely,
So
yeah.
those are the kinds of things that I've seen on a regular basis, and it's not. I wouldn't say it's just the SOC's fault. It's usually the SOC is just underprepared or has had lack of support from the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, like the modern SOC needs to focus on the continuous security monitoring. It's not a one size fit all, as you mentioned at the beginning. You do need to implement changes as you go all the time. New detections, new technologies, new people. It's always a matter of testing, for example, your correlation rules and incident response plan, any of your response plans, in case you have people joining, people leaving. Now, the idea of having tiered security analyst and tiered security analyst, that's a huge difference between those two. And you want to make sure that your analysts are laser focused on security incidents, on security alerts. Now, the response playbooks, it's something that you want to kind of refine as you go all the time. And if you implement any type of source solution, that's perfect. But now remember that, as Art probably mentioned, it's not just having a check mark that we have SOAR. It's actually testing how it operates, what it does, and if the result of this operation is something that you expect. So I would say that most SOCs need to focus on something measurable, something that they can bring in front of their manager first, C-level second, or anyone else in the industry. So mean time to detect, mean time to respond, what was done to implement changes, any improvements done within the period of time, and then did you guys actually reduce the risk, or is this risk inherited and we just move with what we have? So as an alternative to this, to the in-house SOC, as as a part of UnderDefense proposal, we have SOC as a service when you can have the full team 24/7 watching your infrastructure, when you can work with the various stack, so you do not need actually to have someone trained in Fortinets, CrowdStrikes, Splunks, and something like this, because you have a team watching, maintaining, updating infrastructure. There is no burnout because we take this hustle. I have my manager that takes care of the schedule. They look for people that can work for night schedules, someone who is more effective for a second shift. So why not? We are all different as well as our customers' environment. So we want to make sure that those advantages of ours are being used as much as possible. And our basic idea here is to make sure that we have a continuous improvement. I just want to focus on having the robust security in place first of all, and then to have all these reports and everything that matters around. So under defense tends to have a short SLA. We are targeting 15 minutes or less. We want to help you to decrease your ransomware risks, your business email compromise risk. We can help you manage and fine tune your tools. We can always help you with incident response because Art company, ARIAM, and Under Defense are good partners. We are working together. And so when something big strikes, it's all about actually acting fast. And we are combining efforts when needed to make sure that we provide the best service possible. With this, I think we are wrapping up our presentation. Maybe some final words are before we kick into the questions, and I'm sincerely asking you to drop us any questions, comments, anything that you would want us to cover, because we still have 5 minutes before we go.
Yeah. While we're waiting for questions to come in, I think that one of the key things that a good SOC, when it's working with a NOC, can offer, and I know this is one of the real pros of working with UnderDefense, when you're working with them as an MDR provider or a SOC as a service provider, is that continuous improvement and that feedback loop. So we don't want security improvements not to happen because the idea kind of died. The SOC responded to an event, but it never became an improvement. There was a lot of times that SOC responding to an event means there should be a software change in the code in an app you deployed, or there should be a configuration change on the web server or on the firewall. There should be a new detection put in on these systems. There should be some improvement happening after an event. And that's something that a good SOC will do. And that's something that an organization like UnderDefense, when they're in constant contact with you and when they are acting as your SOC, they will, let you know, hey, this is how this could have been avoided. And that kind of expertise is something that you need when you're trying to improve your security position. So when you're combining teams, if you do choose to go that route, it usually improves that communication because they're really team wise, they're sitting right next to each other. The SOC is able to talk to the NOC and say, hey, this needs to change. But whenever you're looking for a SOC provider, um, look for one like UnderDefense that will give you that feedback, that will help you with that continuous improvement.
Actually, one of our guests today asked, what do we use to measure success of a SOC? Like beyond alert volume, how do we track whether the team is actually making an impact? Well, in short, I would say that first of all, you need to have those measurements. A lot of SOC teams just do not follow the measurements. And at UnderDefense, we have the 30 days MDR impact report that's full of different metrics. Second is you want to track those metrics. So you want to understand how those metrics change. It's not only a volume of alerts, it's a response time, it's a time to dwell, it's the improvements that you do, it's the correlation rules and testing of those correlation rules. So the next component that I would say is actually testing. Introduce red teaming, purple teaming, do penetration testings. Try to get rid of unnecessary detections because it's not about a number, it's about the quality. So you want to measure this quality as much as possible. And the last but not least, I would say that you need to have the continuous improvements plan. And if it's not something that your customer or depending on, in our case, if it's a MDR SOC as a service for a customer, if it's an internal SOC, then you're C-level or CISO. You want to have the plan for a couple of months, a year ahead on what needs to be done within your organization as an improvement plan. You want to have this target dates and target achievements because even if you have SIEM, EDR, SOAR, it's not the limit. You want to have predictive analytics. You have to have machine learning. You want to have something like automation on top of your current operations. So I would say that it's a combination of those. Do metrics first, combine those metrics and see if those metrics provide you with a handful insights, and then have something to test those metrics because you want to understand if you're not sitting within the box, you want to see outside of the box. Last but not least, have the clear picture of what needs to be done in the near future. That's for me the one of the success stories. Seems like we do not have any questions, and it was my pleasure, Art, to have you on this call, on this video meeting today. Absolutely, I'll be happy to see you again. Maybe we'll have some ideas after the meeting, after the call, to think about something emerging, something that might be useful to our clients' audience. But again, thank you so much. Thank you for being our friend and a valued partner, and thank you for your time today.
Thank you.